Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ball Caps and Bagpipes, a Scottish baseball podcast. I'm John McKellar of the Glasgow Comets.
And I'm former president Jason Durr, Baseball Scotland
Hall of Famer Jason, and now the proprietor of Dugout Classics. Today we're going to talk about Dugout Classics, your new business venture. I think it's a great idea. I think your reasons for doing it are a mixture of hilarious and commendable. And we'll also have part two of our fantastic interview, which ran almost an hour, with my Comets teammate, Daniel Quinn. Obviously, anyone who listened last week will have heard the first part and will know already that he's a fantastic storyteller, a great guy and a fantastic player. Let's start off with Dugout Classics. Do you want to tell us first off where you got the idea for Dugout Classics and the process that you've kind of gone through of opening the store and where we're at now?
Well, it just kind of came randomly to me as I'm a stay-at-home dad, and I was looking for some jerseys. And I just couldn't find anything in UK or Europe that I wanted. Like a lot of blank jerseys, but that's not really what I'm after. I wanted, old school players or just any kind of players there. And I found myself, buying stuff and sending it to my brother. I had picked up a couple of jerseys, and I had two different people say, well, have you ever thought about, upscaling this and doing this on a larger scale and being that guy who can sell them? And, after, I've been probably buying jerseys, I don't know, 6-7 years now here and there, and I just never found anything in Europe. So I was like, hey, I can be that guy. I can be the guy that gets the jerseys over here and sells them to the UK and Europe, and of course I ship it worldwide. So it's been quite a process to go out there and try to buy some jerseys at a reasonable price, and then turn around and sell them at a reasonable price for people over here.
Next one. Now I know that the one of the things that kind of spurred you to do this was the new Major League jerseys.
This is true. I'm not a big fan of Nike, and I like to go and keep it old school. I think even the last couple of years with Majestic and the cool base ones, I think they're just too light. Now, living in Scotland, it never gets above 22 degrees, so I don't need my jersey to be ultra light. So I prefer like the old wool polyester heavy ones, kind of like, if I'm wearing a jersey, I kind of want to feel like I'm wearing a jersey. Where I have a couple of the newer ones, and they're just really light, and I imagine Nike ones are probably just the same, and plus it's Nike, which I'm not a huge fan of.
I'm not a massive fan of the design of jerseys this year. Obviously the Nike sweat it's been discussed a wee bit. It's kind of been lost among more controversial aspects of this past off season, but the Nike swoosh will be featured kind of like a football jersey on the front, which for a lot of people, including myself, is kind of blasphemy. I think it looks horrendous on pinstripe jerseys. For instance, the New York Yankees. It looked pretty sexy on Gerrit Cole in the introductory press conference back in December, but overall, I'm not particularly chuffed with it. I think that you would agree that it would look better on the sleeve. Or even on the back of the neck of the jersey, just somewhere that it's not as prominent. But it's kind of something that you can understand. It's a way for Major League Baseball to make a ton of money. I'd imagine Nike are pumping quite a few bucks into this deal. It just doesn't look like a baseball jersey anymore, in my opinion.
So it was interesting. So I was listening to the Super 70s podcast, which is an amazing podcast about players in the 70s from all the sports across there. And they were interviewing Todd Radom. Now, you probably have never heard of that name before, but he is probably the top sports designer in the world, like logo designer. Like he's done like the Angels one, he did the Washington Nationals one, he's done Super Bowls, and Todd's just a really cool guy. He actually follows the Cannons. When he was in Edinburgh, I reached out to him. I was trying to meet him for a pint. And this interview was 2 years ago. They just won the contract. And they're thinking that, when maybe not, I'm looking 2 years now, but they're saying probably about 5 years, you can probably expect some crazy Nike jerseys to come out for teams there, kind of like the Oregon Ducks, and it's funny, you see, now 2 years later, you see the big swoosh on there. And we'll see what happens in another 3 or 4 years, and see if you start getting some crazy Diamondbacks jerseys out there.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I'm just not a fan of where it's going at this point. What is it going to be like? Are we going to have advertisements across the front of jerseys in future, like we do in football here? Is it going to get that crazy? Do you think?
I think at some point it does. I think you first see it in probably a batting practice jersey. It'll be the New York Yankees sponsored by Mercedes Benz or something like that for BP. But I think you're still a long ways away to see it creep onto a major league jersey. But yeah, I can definitely see like the NBA did. They started with the warm up tops there, and then of course it went from there to the actual jerseys now. As long as they don't end up looking like NASCAR jerseys, I'm okay with that. I mean, if you look back at when you're growing up, you start listening to everything there, and pretty much everything's sponsored these days, and that's just revenue for the teams there. And again, if you're getting these kind of sponsorships, you should probably be able to afford someone like Mookie Betts on your team then.
Yeah, like we discussed last week, the Padres being in on bets and things like that. Do you think that this Nike deal is going to lead to smaller market teams becoming more competitive, or do you think it's not going to change the competitive balance of the league any?
I don't think it will. I think if anything, Nike maybe does a few more uniforms, generates a few more bucks throughout the years, and then then become retro and people will want them again. But yeah, for the most part, I'm not a big fan of what they're doing.
Yeah, I know that previously we spoke, you kind of mentioned the price of an authentic jersey this year to me, and my jaw almost hit the floor.
I mean, inflation's gone up, and I understand that. And then prices are definitely different than the States than they are here. But when you're asking $450 for a jersey, I mean, how many are you really selling there, and what are you really getting for that? I think you're maybe getting more athletic cut in that jersey, but you can also buy a replica jersey for $140 and go take it to a tailor for $10, and it's the same thing.
This is true, yeah. I mean, you're basically paying for the swoosh, which kind of it really is kind of insulting, I think, and it defeats the purpose. But let's get off the Nike swoosh. We both kind of hate it. I think it's quite understandable for anyone to despise it. It's also kind of understandable. The actual move to make the change is understandable from a financial standpoint. Certainly with the current Major League Commissioner, it's not surprising, but we'll leave that for another time. Let's get back to Dugout Classics. Now, Jason, how many jerseys roughly do you have in stock at the moment?
Gosh, I know I have over 200 items. So that will either be jerseys, there'll be shirts. I got a couple hats here and there. A pair of gloves like that. But yeah, I wanted to focus on getting at least 2 or 3 jerseys from each team, a couple of cool shirts if I can find them. I was always researching just cool shirts that you wouldn't see from your Fanatics or stuff like that. Because our options are so limited here. MLB Europe, the shop isn't that great. Fanatics, I still don't think it's that great. So I really wanted to find kind of more, I wouldn't say obscure, but more of stuff that might be just local level, and try to bring it over here and let people know that there's a lot of cool stuff out there you just don't know about.
Now, the response to the shop has been, I think, absolutely tremendous. Were you anticipating the response to be this great and to take on so much traction so soon?
No, not at all. No, I thought, Matt, I'd launch it. There, be my friends and family who like the page and try to share it here and there. The response has been fantastic. I think I'm close to like 450 people on Twitter already. I'm close to 250 on Facebook. I haven't checked Instagram lately, and so it's just nice to see that people are interested to see what's out there. Sales have been great. It's already been better than I expected, and I'm just hoping that I can keep bringing stuff that people like. The next goal is to start reaching out to all those companies and see if I can just work directly with them and get some more stuff out this way.
Now, of the over 200 items you have in stock, are there any that you consider highlights that you maybe will struggle to part with?
There's 2 definite things. There's definitely my Nolan Ryan 1991 batting practice top by Rawlings. That's actually from the era. So that thing's almost 40 years old and it's in the mint condition. Like I was amazed that I could even find one, let alone get it at the price I got it at. The other big one is I have a National League 2001 All-Star Game jersey that I got that because that was in Seattle, and I worked at the All-Star Game there. I did the Fan Fest and worked there for 2 days. I don't know if anyone else has any interest in a 19-year-old Mariners All-Star Game jersey, but I have it out there, and I know that someday there might be someone that might want that, and I think that's when I would struggle to sell because I'll probably put it up in a frame, and then whenever someone buys it, it'll come down.
Now, I wasn't aware that you actually worked at the All-Star Game in 2001. That's very interesting, and I think in the meantime, though, let's go to part 2 of our interview with Danny Quinn.
Let's bring Danny on for part 2.
Sweet man, this is part 2. In part 2, he's going to talk more about this coming season and a wee bit of his hip hop career. He's quite prominent as a hip hop artist, so it's a really great chat. It's another 20-25 minutes, and we'll be back with a close afterwards. So you also hit very well this year. Was that just a case of muscle memory, did you think, or was there anything that you went into the season consciously looking to improve on or adjust? When looking back at your previous time as a player.
No, I was John. I'll tell you, I was terrible at hitting. I like a few weeks ago, I managed to go into my parents' house and I found a trophy for a home run. The home run leader of the league, 2006 or 5, and I was just like, how did I ever manage to win something like that? Because I was just terrible at hitting. When I first started batting against fastballs, and we used to play South Lanarkshire versus Glasgow, and there was guys like Xander and Jason. We were all the same sort of age, and there was a guy called Darren that used to pitch, and he pitched really, really hard. And one of my first appearances at the plate, I get drilled in the elbow, and it just soured any state of confidence I had in hitting, because any time a pitch would come on the outside, I'd be trying to lean out the way of it when it was 6 inches away from me and stuff like that. So I kind of went into the season thinking that I would strike out a lot and that I would be aiming to bat probably about 200, and most of them would be singles. And I think in our third game, we played the Cannons. So our first game, we played the Galaxy and we won. And then we went on we got a massive score in our second one against the Devils. I think it ended up 21-11 or something like that. And everybody was batting. I didn't get a hit. And then we played the Cannons, and just by chance, in my third game, I got a hit off Sam, and that was I think it was maybe my second hit from the season, but it was a clean hit. And after that, I just thought, if I can hit this guy, I can probably hit the next guy, and my confidence just swelled. And I think after that, I became really, really confident at the plate, and I just picked up the ball really well. So, I think there's a lot to say about facing the better pitchers you face, the better and more comfortable you're going to get at the plate. So I was really, really happy with how I done at the plate. This season, it really wasn't expected for me. I was expecting to walk out there with 100 consecutive strikeouts. So, but yeah, no, it was a great season. It's really helped me develop. That's what I feel the biggest part of my game has been is batting, really, more than anything.
So it's funny you mentioned Darren, because I know exactly who you're talking with, because he was playing when the GBA went up in 2008 to play the adults there. So yeah, Darren was the only pitcher for GBA for a while there.
Did you not have an infamous run-in with Darren McCulloch as an umpire, Bubba?
We did have a verbal shouting match.
I think we covered that on the podcast last season, didn't we? I think we
did cover
that one. Back to you, Danny. How are you finding, or how do you feel that the season went overall for the Comets? Were you overall happy for the team's season? Obviously, you won the Centre Fielder Rookie of the Year award at the Awards Bash. I don't think there's much more that you could have done. to help the efforts. You were exceptional in centre field, and you hit well, as we've covered. Were you overall happy with the quality of the team and the record we ended up with? We obviously very narrowly missed out on a Caledonia Cup place. I think we lost out on the final day of the season. That was when we had our probably worst, the worst of our, I think, 3 collisions in the outfield last year. When I mean, I'm a pretty big guy. It's kind of, it must have been getting hit by a train, because I was at full speed and you still caught the ball.
Yeah, I was surprised that we managed to do that. But yeah, I think there's a lot we can take away from the season. I think, given the level of pitching, when you're going up against guys like Luke and like Sam and Kyle went on a really good run, it's always going to be really difficult. I felt that we played the game really well. I don't know if you know this, John, but as a team, we stole over 200 bases this year.
Yeah.
And it was something that was really drummed in from the start from Gio, was let's win this and on base running. And I feel that was a really good approach. We were very aggressive on the bases. We worked a lot of walks. We got a lot of hits. With a lot of guys that batted better than I, that were, just getting on base consistently. And obviously Albert took home the home run crown. So I feel like we've done a lot that was right. But we came up against a lot of tough competition. I feel like we had a really good team morale. All the guys got on really great, and that's something that is infectious, is the camaraderie when it's going great and everyone's getting on. It makes you want to play more. It makes you want to get better and support your teammates and things like that. So I think that there's going to be guys like myself and like Matt and like Craig and Andy and Gordon and these guys that are, been playing just a couple of years or a year, that are going to continue to develop, and the team's going to get better. So I think there is huge positives that we can take away. And I think a lot of the results that we got, we really fought tooth and nail for. We came back, we got a few comeback wins, we kept our head above water when it seemed like we were, the game was lost and things like that. So we had a real great team spirit. So there's a lot for me to be excited about over the coming season.
Absolutely. I think we played some of my most fun baseball that I've had, that I've played as a player this year. The only thing I think that comes close to this past year's squad would be the original Comets in 2014. When we had a really good year in the first year. This year, I like you've covered, the camaraderie, the hard work, the work rate of the team, and just the quality despite the inexperience. It's extraordinary. Obviously, how things will go moving forward, no one knows. But what would you say the Comets should be looking to do moving forward? And how do you see this current group of people progressing next year?
I think we relied heavily on Albert's arm until we nearly snapped it in two, to be honest. I think he pitched almost every inning for us. So I think there's definitely spec for us to develop more pitchers. Obviously, I got a few trips to the mound towards the end of the season. Rob done really well. Louis took over for a bit too. But there's just so much guys there that are still learning the game and could very easily, try their hand at developing as pitchers. They've got the velocity there, and they've got an interest in it. So I think games for me are always won and lost on pitching, So I think the key to having a really successful team is having, some depth on the mound. So I think that will be a big point for us is looking at who we can get out there, how we can spread the workload across different people, how we can keep hitters off balance with different velocities and different pitches, and also giving guys just an opportunity to do it. At the end of the day, it's it's a social sport. It's about people having fun and learning the game, and people should be learning how to pitch. They shouldn't be restricted, in my view, to playing 5 years at second base or playing 7 years in centre field. We should sort of be trying to get people interested in different elements of the game, you know. So I think for us, a lot of guys are going to take time, like myself, to be fully comfortable at the plate and know how to drive pitches all over the field. But the big thing for the Comets, I think, will be looking at who we can get in the mound and how we can diversify the talent we've already got there.
Now, obviously, with Gio retiring this past off-season, in what way do you feel that the absence of Gio, who's been such a fixture in the Comets team, both as a player and obviously as coach last year, how do you feel that will be felt, or do you think that will be a factor?
I think it definitely will. Gio is someone who is, if you give Gio everything, he'll give you everything back. You know, he'll stand up for his players. He'll be very vocal if he feels a call doesn't go the right way. I always felt comfortable that if I done something on the field that I know I shouldn't have, that Gio would be the first person to say brush it off and get on with it. You know, I remember there was a catch that I should have made on the field one day during a competitive game, and it was one of the rare times I didn't get to the ball or I dropped the ball, and he could see I was beating myself up about it, and he'd taken himself out the game at this point to give someone else a chance to get in. And he shouted at me from the sidelines, and he made the motion just to say, you know, dust it off, get the next one. And I really appreciated that, because I did beat myself up about it if I felt like I was making Albert or whoever was on the mound throw extra pitches that they didn't need to pitch. I think a lot of the guys looked at Gio to get things done, to, you know, sort of get some tenacity into them if we felt we were being cowardly at the plate or striking out or things like that. So I think you know, the Comets relied heavily on him, and it's going to leave a hole in the team, obviously, that hopefully we'll be able to fill. But I've got nothing but respect and admiration for what Gio brought to the team. And at the end of the day, what he done for me was he put me in all 18 games, you know, this year in a rookie season. So the only reason that I was able to do the things that I done was because he gave me the opportunity to do that. So I was always very thankful to him for that.
So I got a question for you. Do you think Gio should be
okay?
Do you think Gio should be forced to come back and manage, and should he do it like full suit and tie, a la Connie Mack or Belichick Hoodie style to come manage?
Yeah, I think when you've got guys with that much experience and that much knowledge, you know, for the game, and that much experience of seeing guys coming through the ranks and helping them develop, then there should definitely, if they want to help people out and do it, then there should definitely be made an opportunity for them to do it, because their skill set and their knowledge is far too valuable when you're trying to grow a sport, to leave them alone and leave them in the outside the periphery of the game. So I think if he was, you know, willing to come back and manage, or he was willing to have some sort of role in just developing the people that are coming through the door and getting people excited about the game, then there should be made a space for that, without doubt.
Now, Danny, looking towards this coming season, two questions. How is winter training going for you on a personal level? And secondly, to wrap up, do you have any personal goals for the 2020 season?
Okay, so winter training's going really good. Actually, I feel like I'm always the guy in the group chat with the appetite for the game that you know is greying on other guys. So over the winter, what I actually done, I've not long moved house, and I've been blessed with getting quite a big back garden. And I'm just off reading Barry Zito's book Curveball, which I would thoroughly recommend if you've not read it. And he talks about during the off season building a pitching mound in his back garden. So I went out my way during, you know, October to now to build a pitching mound in my back garden and just practice through the winter. And I feel that's really helped me with my velocity, which I felt I lost with taking 14 years out. So I really feel comfortable in the speed that I'm throwing at now. And doing the winter training and getting back into it, it's just great to get back into that routine and working the fundamentals and, enjoy the game again and get to see the guys. I was saying to my missus Jenna that I feel like it's been forever, and she feels like it's only been a few weeks that I've actually been in the house on a Thursday and Sunday. But for me, it seems like it's been years since I've actually got to play again. So I'm really thoroughly enjoying being back. And as for goals, in 2020, I think just for the collective goal, I would like to see the Comets get to the postseason. I would like to see us working some of the issues that we maybe experienced last year. For me, if I can go out and play half as much as I got to last season and, stick in centre field and catch a couple of fly balls and people tell me I had a great game because I made 2 catches, then that works perfect for me, So, yeah, that's it, man. I'm just excited to get back out there, see the guys, see who's going to come through, who's going to be the new additions to the team, and get some game time again. Yeah, and hopefully get to the postseason this year.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Postseason, I think, after the way last year ended, has to be the goal. We have to try and get into that top 4, even if we need to sneak in the back door, like we almost did this past year. I think a postseason appearance would be nice. Now, to move on from baseball to close, I want to discuss another endeavour of yours briefly. You don't just have an interest in sport. You're also you're probably more known for your musical career than you are for baseball. Do you want to quickly talk to us about your rap career and how you got involved with that, and how that's going for you?
Yeah, I mean, thank you. Career is a very, very, very generous word for what I'm doing. Thank you for that. But yeah, I started writing not long after I started playing baseball. So when I was 15 years old, I've always been infatuated with hip hop music. I guess it's just been one of those things that struck me from a young age. And I was fortunate enough to grow up around people who were interested in doing the same thing. So I started writing when I was maybe 15 years old or so, and went to college to study sound production and audio engineering. And in doing so, I could get access to a free recording studio anytime I needed. So for 3 years, I was just continuously releasing music. And done that rather successfully. I've got many experiences for that, got to travel a bit of Europe and things. I was the first Scottish rapper, if you will, to be streamed into Scottish Parliament, which was pretty cool.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So there's been loads of stuff. The most recent thing that I done got nominated for Album of the Year, and it was an album that was all around the concept of men's mental health and trying to encourage men in my age bracket, essentially from 18 to 45, who are at real risk of mental health issues, try to get them to open up and communicate. And that really allowed me to start doing music workshops, which I've done for the DWP and I've done for See Me Scotland, and I went into Pullman Young Offenders Institution and just try to get young men to open up through this medium of hip hop, which is very contemporary, very accessible. Seems like it's a very engaging medium to get young people to communicate through. So it's something that I've really enjoyed doing, and it's something that to be honest, since I got back into baseball, it's kind of been thrown at the wayside just now, because I've just been enjoying so much being out in the field, and the contrast between the two is quite stark in that when you're writing and when you're producing and when you're doing music, it's a very lonesome process to go through, because you're sitting internalizing your own thoughts. You're often sitting yourself. You're often doing it all off your own back. Whereas with baseball, what you're getting a team activity that's very social, where you're linking in with other people, and the process and the journey is all formatted in a team. So the contrast for me, what I've really taken to this year, as just to echo what you've said, John, is the camaraderie, is having people around you enjoying the same thing, has been really infectious. So yeah, if people are interested in the music side of things, they can go on to Power Cup Productions, which is a record label in Glasgow that I release under, or they can check Weed, WEED, on Facebook, and there'll be content there. Some of it'll be nonsensical and it won't be to your taste, and it's in a thick Scottish accent, so many of it will not be audible to the untrained ear. But I promise you that one every 30 tracks is tolerable. So yeah, it's worth a look at.
So what I really want to know is, are we going to have a Limp Bizkit style rap metal collaboration between you guys?
I could do that, John. We could do that. I suggest that we get in touch with Paul Convoy and we tell him that we're opening up the award season for 2020, and just tell him this is coming from huge demand, and we can make that happen.
Or we can perform during the 7th inning stretch at the Kent tournament.
I'm sure he'd like that.
To that point, actually, you have worked pretty closely in the past with Becca Starr, who I've run into a few times over at the Icebox Arts and Music Centre.
Yeah, Becca's a close pal of mine, actually. I was up recording with her just recently. Becca and I released an album together. And to be honest, she does the majority of my recording and mixing and mastering and engineering, because I really don't have a clue about any of that things. I just know how to write and speak the words. And she does all the technical aspects to put it into music. So super talented person, and really, really lovely girl. Huge advocate of growing music at a grassroots level in Scotland.
Absolutely, completely agree. Thank you very much again for coming on the show, my man. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and it's good to finally get a comment on. It's good to finally get a fellow Yankee fan on.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything else you want to ask the guest, Jason?
No, Danny, you've been a blast. It's been fun finally get a chat to you. I heard John talked to you up all season long, so it was fun to get a chat.
Likewise, man. Thanks so much for having me on, guys. It's been a pleasure.
So that was part 2 of Danny Quinn's interview with us from this past week. Again, thank you so much, Danny, for coming on the show. It was an absolute pleasure having you on. Great guy, great player. Look forward to seeing more of what he can do on the diamond in 2020.
Absolutely. It was a lot of fun to have him on. I'm definitely going to try to make one of the games to go watch him play and introduce myself and say hello.
Now, where can the listeners find you on social media?
So I'm on Instagram mostly, but you'll find me on Twitter and on Facebook at Bubba on Baseball. And if you're interested in some vintage jerseys, and we do have some modern players there, you can go to dugoutclassics.com. And of course, we're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Dugout Classics.
Now, you mentioned Bubba on Baseball, which is where you have your This Day in Baseball history posts. However, given that we are recording this in advance, along with the first part, it was initially recorded as one show. We had to split it into 2, so we've kind of had to haphazardly throw together an intro and a close for these. Not to break the fourth wall too much or anything, but we don't have This Day in Baseball history today. I think we addressed it last week. You've just kind of been too busy with the kind of getting the store up and running to get onto that. But certainly, I would encourage people to follow Bubba on Baseball. I follow on, I think, both Twitter and Facebook. You can find me on Twitter at John Caps Pipes. Give me a follow. I'll give you a follow back, and let's talk about baseball over the course of the year. Both Scottish baseball and Yankee baseball, primarily.
Yeah, that's it's always good to get some chat going on Twitter. Like, please do send us a message. We'll always get back to you, and we get right away. But yeah, we'll definitely get back. We're always glad that someone stopped in.
Indeed, yeah. Last week we got amazing feedback from the Scottish Blue Jays fans Twitter page. So another shout out to those guys, and a shout out to the British Baseball Podcast guys, the Two Strike Noise guys. And anyone who's involved with baseball in the UK and beyond. let's have a great season, guys, and have fun.
Absolutely, and spring training time. So we're getting that much closer.
Yep, as this episode is releasing, spring training will have started 2 days ago. So pitchers and catchers long since reported. Baseball's back finally. It feels like it's been a long off season. It's been a very controversial and very. This has got to be probably the most hectic off season that I've experienced as a baseball fan.
In all the years I've watched baseball, it's the only time that baseball has been relevant year round. You see that with American football, you see that with basketball, but this is the first time just in baseball. So I'm curious how this plays in the season. If there's more interest in baseball now, is because there's been news about it pretty much every day.
Some of the scandal and controversy that's occurred over the past winter could end up helping the game, because I think Michael Kay actually on his show. He actually mentioned this. Basically, baseball now has a villain, and people love watching a villain. When there's a villain in a sport, they love to tune in and watch what's going to happen next. So it's going to be an interesting year ahead.
So that's interesting coming from a
yeah. I think that makes it even more interesting. The fact that we are kind of in an uncharted position where we're maybe not going to be the most hated team in baseball anymore. It's going to be a weird feeling. It's going to be fun to watch. Now, you mentioned basketball, and we haven't touched on this since we came back for season 2 last week. But we would be remiss, I think, if we didn't bring up the passing of Kobe Bryant before we close up the show. He obviously passed away recently at the age of 41 in a terrible helicopter crash. Now, I believe you grew up a basketball fan yourself, didn't you?
I did. I played a lot of basketball growing up. That was probably actually my better sport.
How did you feel when you heard the news then of Kobe's passing?
It was a shame to hear about Kobe. I really felt out that when it hit to find out his daughter was in there. As a father of 2 small girls, that just devastating. Horrible that he passed away, but that the fact his daughter passed away in the crash as well, just really got to me. So I'll be honest, I avoided as much information as I could because it got me right there, and gave my girls an extra big hug and an extra scoop of ice cream.
I can understand that, and I think if any lesson can be taken from this horrific incident, it's that tomorrow is never guaranteed. You have to treat people with love and compassion where you find them, and it's a sad story, but I think that's a valuable lesson that everyone can take from that.
Yeah, absolutely. So shame that it happened. But make sure you go out and you hug your loved one a little bit tighter tonight. For sure.
Let's close. Well, it's horrible to close on such a somber note, but let's close on that. We'll be back next week. We'll hopefully have an interview in place. If not, we'll try and rustle together something to talk about during spring training.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm looking forward to talking to a couple of people we have lined up. They definitely said they're interested in getting on there, and it's just making sure that we can find time to get them on. Yeah,
for sure. There's one guy in particular that I'm going to be having an in-person sit-down interview with for a future show that I'm really looking forward to. I'll have to sort that out. Something a wee bit different, not a player, but someone who was involved with the league last year to a degree. So it's going to be good to get a new perspective from someone in that interview. Hopefully that'll happen in the next week or 2. But I'll be working some unfortunate shift patterns in the next couple of weeks, so I'll try and fit it in somewhere.
We'll figure it out. Like I said, nothing like podcasting at 6 o'clock in the
morning. Next week might be the last one for a couple of weeks as well. The reason being that I'm about to become a father, so it might be that we'll miss a week, just so the listeners know.
Yes, so we're all waiting for the good news from coming from your side.
Let's close on that happy note. Well, I'll see you next week for another episode, Jason.
Absolutely.
Yep. Join us, folks. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.